Hello friends, I hope you all are doing well and staying safe at your own place. I, CA Pujin Kapadia, welcome you all on my today's lecture on the subject Mercantile Law. As you all are well aware, we had started with the act that is the Indian Contract Act 1872, under which we had taken up the topic of offer and acceptance. In the previous lectures, I had explained you first of all what is an offer, under which I had explained you when there are two persons and one person is signifying his willingness either to do something or to abstain from doing something, that is कुछ करने के लिए या कुछ ना करने के लिए. What is his main motive? His main motive is to get the assent or the consent from that another person. If this is the case, it is known as offer. Then after we had studied what all are the legal rules as to offer, that is whensoever I am making an offer, what are the rules that I need to follow in order to make it a valid offer, under which we had taken up certain points. First was it should be capable of creating the legal relationship. So my intention for offer should be to create legal relationships. It should not be social or domestic relationship. Second is the terms of offer should be definite and certain. That is, it should be crystal clear. There should not be any ambiguity. There should be not be any double meaning. It should be clear, should be understood and interpreted in the same way in which they are conveyed. Next is offer must be communicated. It is most important, friends. Whenever you are making an offer, the person to whom the offer has been made should be aware about that offer. If he is not aware, then it is not an offer. Motive is not important, as I have discussed in the earlier lecture. What is important is awareness about the offer. Next is offer may be conditional. When you are making an offer, your offer may have any kind of conditions. Like for example, I told you when I'm going to purchase any electronic gadget, we are having the conditions when I can get the warranty and when can I not. At the time of accepting the offer, so before acceptance, you should reveal all the conditions that you are going to put with the offer. So yes, your offer can be conditional, but important point is the person to whom the offer is made should be well aware beforehandedly, that is before his acceptance, about all the conditions. Next point was offer may be generic or it can be specific. That is, you can make offer to public at large, that is any person can accept the same, but when you are making an offer to some specific person only, it is known as specific or a definite offer. In that particular case, offer can be accepted by the only person to whom it is made. Next was offer is different from a mere declaration of intention. Suppose I declare like I was failing since long, and in just a casual talk I declare that if this time I'm going to pass, I'm going to pay 1,000 rupees to anyone. Now in case I pass and a person is coming to me claiming 1,000 rupees, then I had just declared my intention. I was not actually making an offer. No, I'm just going to proposing to pay that 1,000 rupees. So important point is two things are different. Whenever you are making a casual statement, it is different, and when you are making a formal offer, it is different. So a clear idea of distinction between the two is necessary. Next is again offer is different from invitation to offer. For example, let's take the example of prospectus. By issuing prospectus, what the companies are doing, companies are telling shareholders that you come and invite us to purchase our own shares. So basically prospectus is not the offer, it is inviting shareholders to offer to the company. So it is invitation to offer. So again we need to identify what is offer and what is invitation to offer. So basically friends, these all points were the legal rules as to valid offer. Then I explained you standing offer or continuing offer, under which I just explained you whenever you are making an offer for a continuous supply for certain particular article at a particular rate over a definite period of time, and it is known as standing offer or a continuing offer. Next was the last part, when the offer is said to be terminated or revoked, or when does it lapse, that is when the offer comes to an end. We had studied several points which are mentioned over here, that under any of the situation which is mentioned in the section 6, your offer gets terminated. So this is what we have covered till date in all our lectures. Today we are going to start with the next part of this particular chapter. It is acceptance. So till now you have understood what is offer, what are the rules as to offer, what is standing offer, and how you can cancel or terminate the offer. Now we are going to the second side of the coin, which is acceptance. Now let's understand what is acceptance. So let's read the definition first. Section 2, clause B. When the person to whom the proposal is made signifies his assent thereto, the proposal is said to be accepted. The person to whom I had made my offer, if he is signifying his assent that okay, I'm ready to invest in your company, or yes, I'm ready to not to do my business in this particular area, like in our examples, fine, then this is nothing. This is the acceptance, or they are signifying either doing something or not doing something. If this is a significance, then it is known as that my proposal has been accepted. And a proposal, when accepted, becomes a promise. So basically, this is what we had already covered in the first chapter, but this is again a reiteration because it is a part of this particular chapter also. So what is acceptance? Basically, when your offer gets consent, fine. Why I was making an offer, I'm sure you're showing my willingness to some another person so that he will consent, he will signify his assent. And now when he's signifying his assent, either to do something or not to do something, it is known as acceptance. I hope I'm clear with this definition. Okay, fine. Let's move ahead. Legal rules as to acceptance. Previously in this chapter, we had seen legal rules as to offer, like what all are the rules that are supposed to be followed to make an offer valid. At the same time, what all are the rules should I follow for the acceptance? So we are going to study now the legal rules as to acceptance. First point that I have mentioned over here is the acceptance must be absolute and it should be unqualified. Let's understand what is the meaning of these words. First of all, the acceptance needs to be an absolute one. That is, it should be complete in itself. It should not be incomplete. Fine, it should be absolute. Second is, it cannot be conditional. Whenever you are accepting something, you cannot say, I'm accepting this thing subject to this points. No. Whenever you are accepting something, you are accepting in the way it was intended to be accepted by the proposer. So you are not making any kind of changes or any kind of modifications in the terms of the offer. In short, what I want to say is, जैसे ही आपको ऑफर दी गई थी, you are going to accept the same in the same mindset with the same intention. In short, what I want to say over here is 2 points. First is your acceptance needs to be absolute one, that is, it should be complete, and second, it should not be conditional. Third point written over here read as acceptance with a variation is no acceptance. It is just a counter proposal for original proposer to accept or not. What they are trying to say over here is, whenever I am accepting by making certain variations in the terms of offer, what I am doing is, suppose he has offered that I need to pay 2 lakh rupees one shot, and I said, okay, I will pay you 2 lakh rupees, but I am going to pay you in 4 installments of 50,000 each. Here I had agreed, I had accepted that okay, I'm going to pay you 2 lakh rupees, but I had added a condition that I'm going to pay it in 4 equal installments. When I'm doing any kind of modification or variation in the original offer, there is no acceptance, there is a counter offer. That is, this scenario is going to imply in such a manner that now I am offering to that particular person that I am going to pay you 2 lakh rupees in 4 equal installments. Are you ready to accept it? So now I am counter offering that person. In short, what you guys need to remember over here is, whenever the acceptance comes with a variation, that is, there are any modifications in the terms of offer, then it is not termed as acceptance. It is a counter offer which is being done by the person. I hope you are clear with this point also. Let's take one example so that you will be more clear about the same. I have written one example in this fourth point. Mr. A offered land to Mr. B for rupees 10 lakhs. What A has offered, that he want to sell his land to Mr. B for rupees 10 lakh. B accepted and enclosed rupees 2 lakh with a promise to pay the balance by monthly installments of rupees 1 lakh each. So what is the case over here is, Mr. A want to sell his land and he offered Mr. B to purchase the same for 10 lakh rupees. B accepted. He said, okay, sir, I'm ready to purchase your land at 10 lakh rupees. And he gave him the cover of 2 lakh rupees. And he added a condition which was not there in the initial offer, that I'm going to pay you the remaining installments on a monthly basis of rupees 1 lakh each. So basically what he has done is, he has done variations or he has done modifications in the original offer. As a result of which, what we have studied in the point number 3, that whenever there are variations at the time of acceptance, it is not considered as an acceptance. It is a counter offer, which is written over here, held no contract, since acceptance was not unqualified, because it was with condition, so it cannot be said to be unqualified. I hope you are clear with this particular point. So what we have learned over here, the acceptance must be absolute, that is in a complete sense. And second, it should be unqualified, that is it should not be covered with any conditions. It should be accepted in the way it was offered to you. If you are making any variations or modifications in the terms at the time of acceptance, it is not acceptance, it is just a counter offer. That is, you are proposing now the another party, you are offering him with a new offer, which is actually not the acceptance. I hope you are clear with this particular part. Okay, let's move ahead to the second point. Acceptance must be expressed in usual manner, that is the manner in which it is prescribed. For example, I had told you that you need to accept this particular thing by mailing me in written. So you need to reply me via email. And now if I'm not replying via email, it was not equivalent to acceptance. So what I want to say over here is, if the manner of acceptance is prescribed, you need to accept your offer in that particular manner only. Suppose mail करने के लिए बोला था, तो you need to mail that particular part. Let's read it out so that it will be clear to you guys. First point is, if the offer prescribes a mode, that is, अगर offer में कहा गया है that you need to reply in a particular manner, acceptance must be given accordingly. I have given an example. Suppose the offerer or the proposer who is making an offer wants telephonic reply. He wants that the person to whom the offer is made should give his acceptance via telephone. And if he reply is sent by the post, what is doing? The acceptor is not giving the telephonic reply, rather what he is doing, he is sending his acceptance by a post. Then there is no acceptance. I hope you are getting this point. So what I want to say over here is, when the manner of acceptance is prescribed to you at the time of offer only, you need to compulsorily accept the offer in the same prescribed manner. So अगर उसने बोला था that telephonic acceptance is required, you cannot send him the mail acceptance or the post acceptance. You need to compulsorily accept with the telephonic acceptance. This is our first point. Second point says, if offeree, that is the person to whom the offer was made, if offeree fails to accept in prescribed manner, as in this example, he has failed to reply in a telephonic manner, proposer may, within reasonable time after the acceptance is communicated to him, insist that the proposal be accepted in a prescribed manner. What they are telling over here is, in case if the acceptance is not being made in a prescribed manner, like in our example above, it was supposed to be accepted by a telephonic reply, but it was sent by post. But by post also, the offerer came to know that the person to whom the offer was made has accepted the offer. Then what offerer should do? He should, within reasonable time after the acceptance was communicated to him, insist that the proposal is to be accepted in a prescribed manner. That is, अब आप मुझे telephonic पे भी acceptance भेज दो. What they are trying to say over here is, first of all, the way the acceptance is to be prescribed, it should be done in a same manner. In case it is not done in the same manner, but the acceptance is communicated to the offerer, then what offerer should do? Within reasonable time, he should insist the person that please accept the offer in the way it was prescribed. First of all, you need to be through with the prescribed mode only, but in case if you are not adhering to the same, offerer would within a reasonable time would insist the acceptor to accept the offer in a prescribed manner. The third part is, if of proposer does not inform offeree, he is deemed to have accepted the acceptance although it is not in the desired manner. That is section 7 subsection 2. What is written over here? Let's take the first example, that the proposer wants telephonic reply as an acceptance, but he was sent the reply by post. So basically there was no acceptance as per the point number 1. But within reasonable time, if he is not insisting the person who is accepting the offer to give the acceptance by telephonic reply, then it will be deemed, it will be assumed that the proposal has accepted the offer. See, these points are technical, so you need to understand in detail what they want to say. Fine. So in the first point we had studied, the acceptance should be in a manner in which it is prescribed. That is my first point. Agar telephonic reply bola, it should be in a telephonic reply only. If it is by post, it is not acceptance. Second point says about that even if it is not in a prescribed manner, but the proposer came to know about the acceptance, he was communicated by the acceptance, he would insist the another party to give the acceptance in a prescribed manner within reasonable time. And the third point says, if the offerer or the proposer do not insist the party within reasonable time, then it will be assumed that he has accepted the particular thing or he is okay with the particular acceptance. I hope you are clear with this point. I would just request you to go through these particular points within a minute. Well, I hope you are clear with this point. Okay. Third point, the acceptance must be by the party named in the offer. If you can remember, we had studied two types of offer. One is general offer and another is specific offer. What was general offer? The offer which is made to the public at large. That is, any person can accept that particular offer. And what was specific offer? When an offer is made to some particular person or a particular group of person. Here, what they have said is, when there is a specific offer, only it should be accepted by that specific person to whom it is made. That is, जिसको offer दी गई थी, he is the only person who is actually the right person who can accept the offer. No one else has the power or has the authority to accept on his behalf. So what we are dealing in this point, whenever specific offer is made, the acceptance should be by the particular person to whom the offer was made. Now let's read this example. Mr. X sold his business to Mr. Y without disclosing the fact to the customers. Now, Mr. Z, who was one of the customer, placed the order in the name of Mr. X. Why? Because it was natural that Z was not knowing about this transaction, that X has sold his business to Y. So naturally, Z has placed the order in the name of X. So the offer was made by Mr. Z to purchase the goods to whom in the name of Mr. X. But now the business was with Y. So who received the order? The order was received by Mr. Y, and Mr. Y supplied goods to Mr. Z. Now what is the scenario over here? First understand that particular part. X has sold his business to Y without disclosing the fact to the customers. Z, who was the customer, in general course, he has placed an order, or you can say he has placed an offer to purchase goods from Mr. X. So it was a specific offer in the name of Mr. X. So as per this rule, who is supposed to accept this offer? Only Mr. X. Y has received the order. Why? Because the business was already sold, as a result of which Mr. Y has received the order and he has supplied goods to Mr. Z. It was held that no contract between Y and Z, because Z never made any offer to Mr. Y. Because Z, who was the customer, has made the specific offer for the sale of goods to Mr. X only. So only Mr. X has the power to accept that particular offer, no matter what. As a result of which, this contract of trading in goods is not valid. Why it is not valid? Because it was not accepted by the person who was supposed to accept. So basically, this is the outcome of that specific offer. So when there is a specific offer, it should be accepted only by that specific person to whom the offer was made. And in case of general offer, any person can accept the same. As you know, since it is made open for all, it is an open offer, as a result of which it can be accepted by any person. I hope you are clear with this point. We have learned in this particular slide that the person to whom the offer is made is the only person who can give valid acceptance. No other person has power to give the valid acceptance. Next point, the acceptance must be communicated to the offerer. Now the point comes that whenever you are accepting the offer, you need to communicate your acceptance to the offerer. उसको कैसे पता चलेगा? So it is necessary that you need to communicate that you have accepted that particular offer. First point, a mere mental acceptance, not evidenced by words or by conduct, is no acceptance. That is, for example, Mr. A has given offer to Mr. B. Now Mr. B has in his mind decided that I am going to accept the offer. In his mind, he has decided that I am going to accept this particular offer, but he has not communicated to Mr. A. Now, how Mr. A is going to come to know that he has accepted the offer? So in this particular case, what they're trying to say by this point is, if you are merely accepting in your mind, a mental acceptance, it is not a valid acceptance. In order to make your acceptance valid, you need to communicate to the person who has made an offer to you. Let's take an example. Bank passed the resolution to sell land to Mr. A. Mr. A might have offered bank that he wants to purchase the land, and bank has passed the resolution that they are going to sell land to Mr. A. But it failed to communicate the acceptance. So what they are trying to say in this particular example, Mr. A must have offered previously that he wants to purchase land from the bank. Bank has called a meeting, and in the meeting of that shareholders or the board of directors, they have passed the resolution. Okay, they are ready to sell the land to Mr. A, but they have not communicated to Mr. A about this acceptance of this offer. Since there was no communication, your acceptance is not supposed to be called as a valid acceptance. So it was held that there is no contract. So what is the important point over here? सिर्फ mind में सोच लेने से acceptance नहीं होने वाला. It is necessary that you need to communicate your acceptance. Point number 2, acceptance is valid even if it is not expressed. Now, in every case, it is not necessary that you can express your acceptance. But if any of the cases falling under these points that we are going to study, then also your acceptance is said to be valid. So now let's look at the point. First is, if I am accepting by express conduct, that is, I am showing something expressly by my conduct, by my act, it is evident that I have accepted my offer. Now, what all are the express conduct? Let's look into the same. First is by performance of the conditions. Let's take an example. Suppose there was a single lady who had a property and she was living alone, almost on the verge of death. Fine, she was on the last stage. Now, what she has done is she has offered her niece that if you are going to stay with me lifelong, then I'm going to pass on my property to you. Now, she has not actually accepted that particular point. Her niece has not accepted particular point, but what his niece has done is her niece started living with her up till her death. And automatically after her death, the property was passed on to the niece. Now, you cannot say that when the widow had offered her niece has not given any communication of acceptance of offer. But by her act, that is, by staying with the widow, she has expressed her conduct that she is going to accept that particular offer. As a result of which, what she has done is she has performed the condition. What was the condition? Until the death of that widow, the niece needs to stay with the widow, and she has done that. She has fulfilled the condition. So it is not necessary that you need to expressly communicate your acceptance. By fulfilling the conditions also, you can show your express conduct, and it is a valid acceptance. Second point is by acceptance of consideration. Let's take an example. I am going to bank to take a loan of rupees 10 lakh. Now, as of now, the rate of interest is 7%, but bank has intimated me, sir, now the rate of interest is going to increase to 8%. So on your particular loan, it is going to be 8%. At the time of taking the loan, I didn't say anything. I had just taken the check of 10 lakh rupees from the bank and deposited in my bank account. Now it is implied that since I had accepted the consideration of rupees 10 lakh from the bank, I had shown my acceptance to pay rate of interest of 8%. I cannot fight that, sir, it was 7%. No. Why? Because I had already accepted the consideration. And when you are accepting the consideration, it is implied that you had accepted the offer. As a result of which, though I had not communicated my acceptance in writing, but by my conduct, that is by accepting the consideration, I had shown a valid declaration that I am going to accept your offer of 8%. And the third point over here is by accepting the benefit of services. For example, I want to travel from one place to another in my city. What I'm doing is I'm booking a cab. The cab wala says that, sir, I'm going to charge 100 rupees to commute you from one place to another. I didn't utter a word. I just stepped into the cab and he took me from one place to another. Now, I cannot say, sir, मैंने तो accept किया ही नहीं था. No. Why? Because I had already taken the benefit of the cab services. So it was implied that I had accepted to avail those services at rupees 100. In short, in this three scenario, I am not accepting or communicating my acceptance, but by my conduct, by my act, I am showing that I had accepted the particular offer. I hope I'm clear with this particular point. This point is not over. There is one another slide also, but I would just request to take a quick view on the particular points which are mentioned on this particular slide. Well, friends, so these were the points of express conduct, that you are not communicating the acceptance, but by doing these three things, that is either by performance of conditions, that is the example of widow and her niece of staying home until the death. Second is by acceptance of consideration, that is our loan wala example, 7%, 8% rate of interest. And the third is by accepting the benefit of services, cab wala uncle 100 rupees. Fine. So these are the conduct by which I'm showing my acceptance. Let's move to the next point. Point number B. These are my implied conducts. Let's take a look. First is acceptance of offer by conduct. I'm not communicating my acceptance but by doing something, I'm signifying that I'm accepting the offer. This is nothing. This is my conduct. This is my act. And in this particular case also, your acceptance is valid. Second is acceptance communicated to an agent. Now, offerer had an agent. So basically, whenever it is not possible for me to communicate to the offerer, that is the original person who had made an offer. What I'm doing is, on his behalf, I'm making communication to his agent. Communication of acceptance made to the agent is implied that I had communicated to the original offerer. So even if I'm communicating my acceptance to an agent, it is considered as a valid acceptance. So these two are the implied conduct. That is, first is by your act or by conduct, or second is by communicating to the agent of that particular person. It is valid that you had accepted. Third point is waiver of communication of acceptance. Let's read what is written over here. Your acceptance is said to be valid if requirement of communication of acceptance has been waived by proposer. Now this is a scenario where the person who has made me the offer, he is only telling that if you are not going to communicate, it is okay. There is no need to communicate the acceptance. I will presume that you have already accepted my offer. Now what is happening over here? Proposal is telling me upfrontly that there is no need to communicate the acceptance. Now if he is saying so, then my acceptance without communication is also going to consider as a valid acceptance. And the last point is acceptance by post. This acceptance is said to be valid as soon as the letter of acceptance is posted. This means, for example, the person who has made me the offer stays at Mumbai and I am living at Surat. Now in this particular case, I want to convey or communicate my acceptance to Mr. X in Mumbai. What I'm doing is I'm going to post office and I'm drafting my acceptance letter and I'm doing speed post. As soon as I am posting my letter, I am handing over my letter to the speed post or the postal authorities. It is assumed that I had made the communication of the acceptance, and my acceptance will be considered as a valid acceptance. So again, when you are accepting by post, it is valid as soon as the letter of acceptance is posted. So point number 4, friends, basically was talking about that it is compulsory that you need to communicate your acceptance to the offerer. If you are just keeping it in your mind, it is not a valid communication. But in the certain scenario, even if you are not expressly communicating your acceptance, then also it is going to be considered valid. Like we have studied 3 cases of express conduct, 2 cases of implied conduct. Third point was when offerer himself has said that there is no need to communicate, then there is no need to communicate. And last is acceptance by post. In this particular point, as and when I am posting that particular acceptance, it is deemed that I had communicated my acceptance. I hope you are clear with this particular point. Let's move to the next one. Acceptance must be within reasonable time. Fine. First point is your acceptance should be before the offer lapse. For example, a company is telling me that if I want to take a job with them, they are offering me a job. Fine. I need to give my acceptance within 1 month. Now, if I am not giving my acceptance within 1 month, then it is natural that offer has lapsed. So my acceptance will not be considered as a valid acceptance. Why? Before offer has already lapsed. It was open only for 1 month. I hope you are getting me. So first point is your acceptance should be made before your offer is lapsed. That is, before your offer gets terminated, you need to give your acceptance. Second point, as I said, if the time limit is specified, in our case it was 1 month, then you need to accept it within the prescribed time limit. I cannot say, no, I'm going to reply you after 3 months. No, then it is not a valid acceptance. If the time limit was fixed as 1 month, then I need to reply and I need to accept within 1 month. Second is, if time limit is not specified, now they had kept open that we are offering you the job. Now they had not mentioned in how much time I am supposed to accept this particular job. Then in that particular case, I need to accept it within a reasonable time. Now what is reasonable time? It changes from case to case. You cannot define it under one specific definition. From case to case, the reasonable time is going to differ. So you need to remember only 2 points. When time is specified, accept the offer within that specified time limit. If time is not specified, you can accept the offer within a reasonable time. I just given you the example. We'll quickly go through it. Mr. A offered to buy shares in XYZ Limited on June 8. He received the acceptance letter on November 23. Now just see the period when he made an offer on 8th June and when he's getting the acceptance on 23rd November. He refused to take the shares. Held A was correct. Why? Because the reasonable time has already lapsed. Now, if you want to intimate the acceptance of buying of shares, maximum you can take a week, fine. But you cannot take this long months, as a result of which reasonable time was already passed. So A was correct in his contention. I hope you are clear. Fine. So you need to accept the offer within reasonable time. Next is there cannot be in ignorance of offer. You cannot accept the offer in ignorance of offer. जैसा आपको offer के बारे में बताया नहीं था, still you are accepting the offer. This is not possible. First point is acceptance cannot precede offer. That is, you cannot accept before someone is offering you. Getting me? So you can give your acceptance only after someone has offered you. Fine. Before offer, you cannot give your acceptance. This is your first point. Acceptance cannot precede your offer. Second point is acceptance cannot be in ignorance of offer. If the person is not knowing only about the offer, still he is accepting, it is not practically possible. So you cannot accept the offer in ignorance of the offer. I am using the same example that I had taught you in the legal rules of offer also. Mr. A sent his servant, Mr. S, to find his lost boy B. Later, he declared a reward of ₹1 lakh for finding his son B. Now S, the servant, was unaware about the declaration of this reward. S found B and brought him home. He then came to know about the reward and claimed it. So what is the scenario? Mr. S, that is the servant, was not actually aware about the reward. He just found the boy as per his own faithfulness. It was held that S was not entitled to reward, being he was unaware about the offer. Fine, as we had discussed, if you want to accept the offer, it is compulsory. You should be aware. You should be having the knowledge of that particular offer. If you are ignorant about the same, or if you are not aware only about the offer, you cannot accept it. So in this particular case also, though the servant has found the boy, he cannot claim the reward. Why? Because he was not aware about that particular offer. With this, I, CA Pujin Kapadia, hope that you had well understood all the topics, and for which I thank you all for your patient listening and hope to see you soon in my next lecture. Thank you, friends, and stay safe.